Hello, and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sherry Ann.
So, today we're starting a new series called the Hard Emotion series, and today we're going to start out with fear, a very common one amongst anyone. But first, we're going to do our pest check in and get grounded. Sherry Ann, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Go. Okay. So physically, I am a 3.75. Emotionally, I am spirit 4.3. Hope is 4.25. And my word is delight.
Okay, physically, I'm a 4.4. Emotionally, I am a 4.5, spiritually, a 4.2, and hope is a 4.2, and my word is, my word is distracted.
Okay. Yes, I see that Luna just jumped on your lap.
And she does not usually like to be perched around me, so, but that's fine. That's where we're at right now. So,
Okay.
distracted, yes.
So, hard emotion series. It's a delicate and tender, actually, series for us to do because I know that while some people might call these taboo or like run, don't feel these emotions, it's so important for us to feel all of our emotions. We are all of our emotions, and just kind of a reminder that our emotions are part of what makes us human, that we feel them, that we can work and listen and be with them and not just reactionary to them. And that most of all, they're messengers, they're messages from our body telling us something's going on and we need to pay attention.
Yeah. I am like, I mean, obviously we came up with this together, but I'm right there with you in that, like, often we're in such avoidance of these emotions and denial of them, and we're human. And, like, just the fact that you know them, and when you say them, it triggers a memory, or it comes up for you, or it bubbles something up. I recently was on, like, Instagram looking at a post, and someone said that embarrassment is an emotion that's not, or an experience that's not explored enough. And I think that of all of these that we're talking about in our hard emotion series, because when we're unfamiliar with these emotions, we then don't have the tools to be able to navigate them because we're in such avoidance of them. So when they arise, we like panic. And so instead of
Mhm.
holding them as any other emotion, or, a little more objectively, like from a distance, we're so in it, and we're so on fire, and we're so confused and lacking an experience of just handling and being with them, that it creates this whole slew of other stuff that comes up for us. And so, um instead of just having everyone else be like, yeah, I know that emotion, we're gonna, like, talk about it, because it can be so hard to even do that.
Yes. And I kind of, as you're talking, I'm just imagining like the stress bubble. We all have stress. And there are emotions that kind of tap us on the shoulder, going, oh, this is a stressful, challenging time. And those are the ones that we don't want to look at, as you were saying, denial, suppression, avoidance, all of those come up. And when I say stress bubble, it's like I can see this bubble kind of like just encasing me. And it's like, I'm stressed out. Well, we know stress, cortisol release really is not beneficial to our system. It does cause dis-ease, meaning we're not comfortable, we don't feel like ourselves. It takes us out of our being, and it also causes damage to our physical body. So, having your emotions be in a stressful state, putting you into a stressful state, which leads to your mind going, oh no, triggering our when I say oh no, it's like triggering our negative ego who wants to protect us. So now we're in avoidance, just what you said. And then our body growing, oh, I gotta hold on tight. And maybe I go into the fight, flight, fawn. I can't remember all of them anymore right now, but that space. And so that is just not a great feeling. So I totally understand the avoidance. And
Yeah.
so by going to one of the ones that um, happen very often, called fear, will allow us to be like, okay, let's be with fear instead of avoiding it or running away or trying to suppress it. It's like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk fear.
Let's talk fear. All right. I've like the first thing that comes to mind for me is like, how does fear come up for me personally? Like, how do I handle when fear comes up? And I think sometimes there's this like dismissiveness around it. It's like, I'm not scared. Like, I just don't do that. I'm not afraid. I just that's not a thing I do. And there's like this kind of excuse making around it because I don't know that I personally feel that there's like a stigma for that fear. I think it's a very shared experience in fear. But it's almost I feel like fear creeps in the shadows, you know? Like it creeps up on you, it kind of hides behind a lot of things, and there's so many different levels of fear, right? Like fear of dying is like up there. It's so real, it's so visceral, especially anyone going through a cancer experience, like that's very present and that's very easy to relate to for a lot of people too. Fear of smaller things, it's like we tiptoe around them a little bit. And so like where does fear sit? I'm trying to like feel into my body. Where does fear sit with me? It feels like it hits above my heart and my chest, but like a little bit further back, and it like makes me like cave in a little bit. You know, it feels like it like well, it doesn't even constrict me. I mean, it is a constricting emotion, but it's like it does cave my shoulders in, almost like it feels like it's trying to expand my back to protect me. You know,
Mm.
how does fear come up for you?
It's very vibrational. Zzz, like almost electrocution. And not that I've ever been electrocuted, but every once if you ever get that zap, it's like, ah! I mean, that really is it. And so what comes up for me, now this is my head, we're trying to explain what my body feels like. It's like Halloween is very close. So it's that walking through a haunted house, how they make those up in the Halloween season. And you don't know. It's a lot about the unknown. And so you're walking down the corridor, and then they have these people jump out, and you know that they're going to jump out. You just don't know when. And it's that. I mean, and the same thing with scary movies. It's like that they're trying to shock you. They're trying to like jump and you want to be prepared, but there's no way of being prepared enough. And it's just that visceral electrocution. And I actually, while I'm talking about this, I understand why people do the bungee jumping or daredevil kind of things when they need a jolt of like, my life is so boring, or it's so mundane that I need to feel alive again, and it needs that jolt. And so they'll do that, and it's like, okay, really feel alive. But that's not what I need. I don't like roller coasters. That just, and I know you don't either. Um, I think that we're really aware of our aliveness, so we don't need that electrocution or that jolt. But I feel it like all over. I mean, I keep saying, putting my hands here because it's like my heart starts beating, and it's like, and at my and almost like it takes my breath away, and I gasp and I can't breathe. That is fear to me.
hmm It's very visceral, and I feel like there's a lot of lack of control in it. You don't know when it's happening. You don't have any control over the situation that's getting you there, that's getting your heart rate up. Unless you're putting yourself in a haunted house, and that's completely your own decision to be in that fear. And I think those people are much more well acquainted with like being with their fear in some ways. Like they're expressing their fear, I think, too, because you know Again, I don't like a roller coaster, but there are people who love a roller coaster who love to scream, and that's how they let it out. And I think that's beautiful. Not for me, but for them, love that. Um, but it's such a hard place to express it, right? Like for anyone who's going through a cancer experience, to admit that they are fearful of dying is a really, really hard step to take. And then it's also like, well, who do I tell? Because the people around you, sometimes you're scared to tell them because you don't want to impact them. You don't want to freak them out. You don't want to make them just as fearful as you, and especially if they're your support system and they're holding you up and you don't want to knock down the people who are helping you. And again, this is when a coach comes in, and it's really, really good to have a coach because they can hold space for these things that feel like I couldn't possibly say that out loud to the people who care about me, and I don't want to have the repercussions of that. It's like there's a place to put that, and we want you to have a place to put that because you can't get past that fear until you express it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the caretaking that as a patient you're still doing with your loved ones and your friends, it's more emotional and it's more mental. But we don't want to cause them to feel like, uh-oh, you're giving up just because you want to talk about death, because that's what you're afraid of. But it's so cathartic too. So you've got to go somewhere where you can, and a coach is the perfect situation because it's personal, it's intimate, and you're not being judged. And you're not impacting the coach just by saying, I want to talk about death and dying. It's okay. And I get there's a whole movement out there talking about death cafes or death over dinner. I mean, I love the interplay that that kind of the titles actually uh, elicit. Is like, okay, this is someplace where we get to bring it front and center and talk about it, but that's not always available. But a coach could be, and especially at you know 2 o'clock in no 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, I don't know where there's a meeting where I can talk with others, but I do want to talk to somebody because this is what's coming up for me right now.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels too vulnerable to let it out with a group of strangers. Like even during like support groups or big groups like that, it can be really in general, I think it's really hard to talk to a group of people that you don't know, especially when people have that perspective of being very people pleasing. And it's like we've grown into a culture of it's really hard to take up space.
Yeah.
Um, so not only does it feel uncomfortable and vulnerable to let it out, but then we don't want to like be selfish and be like filling the room with our own hot air when everyone else has issues and this and that. So when you're with your coach and you're one on one, not only do they get the experience that you're going through, but they're so highly trained to be able to hold that space for any of the hard emotions that come up, but especially fear. And I think fear is one of the ones that is most prevalent on a cancer journey. You know, fear of not just what your experience is with death and dying, if we're really pulling the people pleasing into it, but like what's going to happen to your family, what's going to happen to your friends, what happens to your work, what happens to all of these things that were part of your life when you're gone. And then there's this responsibility that sometimes comes up of like I have to take care of everything now and set everyone up, and even the fear that sometimes that trickles into of like, well, they're going to be better off without me because right now it's bad for them. I mean, I've heard so many things, and it like sometimes one fear that we're talking about will lead to the next, will lead to the next. But then just saying your fear out loud, how powerful. Because often we won't even say it to ourselves. We're like,
Exactly. It's like I don't want to bring it up. That's and I know that in the Chinese tradition, if you even talk about death, it's almost like you're calling it forward. But I know it just feels like we're not taught how to be with death. And then you add in the dying and our preconceived ideas of what that's going to be like. Oh, is it going to be painful? Am I going to struggle? What am I going to experience? Which is, we don't know. And what is it like on the other side? Dare I talk to, am I going to make that up? It's got this becomes this ball, right? Of what the fear is. I'm going to disappoint people. People are going to feel abandoned. Oh, they're going to be, it's now the over responsibility that you're talking about. And so all of that comes in, and it feels like a huge stress bubble. So it's like, I don't even want to enter in that arena, enter into that arena. And so we just avoid it. But that's not how we process. Processing is, just as you said, saying it out loud.
Yeah.
There is magic in the telling because we're getting it out of our being, out of our head, out of our heart, out of wherever we're holding it so that we don't have to hold it. And it's whatever you want to say. And, if you have a very astute friend who's like, I can hold it, then please use that resource. But if you don't, that's why we talk about our cancer journey coaches, because they are well trained to hold any situation. And emotions is a big one. We're not taught how to be with these hard emotions, particularly fear. Fear is the biggest one I hear on any cancer journey. And it's not just death and dying, but that is part of it. It's the what am I going to experience? What is my family going to experience? Um, what don't I know? And so we're constantly trying to figure out who can tell me what's going to happen. And the truth is, every journey is different.
Yeah. Honestly, when we talk about fear too and what we're holding and how we feel like it's calling out, like when you speak your fears, those already exist in you. Your body is already holding on to those things. But instead of holding them here and holding them quietly, and like that's the baggage. That's the baggage that you carry around with you. When you're able to put down some of that weight and let someone else hear them, it really does make it lighter. And at least like when you're carrying your groceries for like 1 block, you're like, I'm fine. But 5 blocks later, that gets heavy. Over
Yeah.
time, all of it gets really heavy. So even to just unload it a little bit on someone else to put some of it down, like you can still continue to hold bits of it because we're not saying it's going to disappear or solve the problem, but it takes off that top layer of stress. And so you can be with the fear and have the fear and still do it anyways, which is like I'm sure it's a quote from somewhere else, and it's also along the lines of like bravery doesn't mean that the fear doesn't exist. The fear still exists, you're just still doing it. And sometimes I remind myself that when I'm doing something hard and I'm really scared, and I'm like, be scared. Just be afraid and still do it because you're capable of things much harder than you think you are. But to express that fear and take like the like itchiness, the like uncomfortableness of it, that like even fear of like voicing it off the top, you can then still have that fear and have all these other emotions of like appreciation for that fear because it's really part of your negative ego. It's trying to protect you, or like being um the fear of money, right? Like we've talked about that in our um podcast that was about cancer and money, and the fear of money is a very very real one. And changing your perspective by talking about what your money perspective. I'm not going to say talking about your money situation because you can share that if you'd like to. Not everyone's comfortable doing it. But to share your perspective with money helps you feel heard by other people. And it helps resonate it with you because you hear yourself saying it too. And then you can actively make a choice to have a different perspective on it. Same thing with the fear of even just having cancer, dying, right? Like it's scary. The immediate thing that people think of is dying. But when we start to see cancer and the fear of just having cancer as an opportunity to live our life to the fullest and get everything we really want, regardless of how much time we have left on this world, it becomes something that you can still have that fear and continue to live like a beautiful, huge, glorious life.
Absolutely. I love everything that you said, and so many things are coming at me. A couple of things. One is I think that a lot of the fear that we feel is about fear of failure or fear of being judged. And then, in a sense, there is a death or a dying. Because, like, if I fail, am I going to be a homeless person? I hear that a lot. It's like, I can't, it's, but the worst that could happen is I imagine myself homeless and on the corner with my bag of stuff, and you know that's a big fear. Another one is judgment. I'll be judged and then I'll feel this small and I won't want to be a part of anything because I feel inadequate or not valuable or and so that's another kind of death, right? A death of being your authentic self. So while we were talking about death and cancer, it's like all of this is all very negative ego, but being able to talk about it and letting it out instead of holding that, what's the worst thing could happen? And then I'm like, I don't want to look at that, but really that's always under the current. And anytime I'm faced with something, it'll pop up. Oh, you could lose everything. And so it paralyzes us when we don't allow ourselves to be with the emotion of fear, whatever the story is behind it. And I like what you said about do it anyways. That takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of strength in yourself, but knowing that holding it is actually worse for you than moving forward.
Yeah. I think that the fear of failure and the fear of what was the other one? Fear of failure and fear of judgment
Judgment.
are so they're like the additional fears that like ride the back of every other fear. And I think absolutely they're kind of the ones that if you can put them down a little bit and just understand that judgment and failure may be inevitable anyways, and so we don't really need to hold that fear as tightly and let it hold us back, is when being brave and being scared and doing it anyways becomes easier. Um, I'm gonna do my takeaway. My takeaway is that yes, you're gonna be afraid. We're live human beings. There's not like any time when fear is not in the equation of our lives. Fear will always be there, and we're gonna do it anyways. We're gonna keep moving forward and doing it anyways. And what makes that experience easier is talking it out and not shoving it in our pockets as if no one can see it, and um, acknowledging what those fears are so you can really live the full life that is in tune with what you really want and need, regardless of your fears. And then my pesh, physically, I'm a 4.4, emotionally, a 4.6, spiritually, a 4.3, and hope is a 4.2, and my word is proud.
Okay. My takeaway actually, what resonated when you were talking about bravery, um, was I did a live workshop yesterday, and there was a woman who is 80 years old, and she came up to me after the workshop, and she said, I was really scared through my cancer journey, um, but now I'm here, and I'm 80, and I could say that I am living my best life right now. I mean, that is totally, being afraid and choosing something that's more powerful for you, more aligned with who you are. I mean, like busting through that fear and doing what you need it to do and living just right now. And so she's living her best life at 80, which is really fun to hear. My Pesh is physically 4.2, emotionally 4.25, spirit 4.4, hope 4.35, and my word is hopeful.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with a new episode.
Remember that you're more powerful than you realize, and have a lovely rest of your day.